I call the member for Goulburn.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Today I rise to speak against the proposed Gundary solar farm in my electorate of Goulburn, located a mere 9.6 kilometres southwest of Goulburn town centre. My electorate of Goulburn is already saturated with renewable energy projects. To list only a few, we have the Gullen Range, Cullerin Range, Gunning, Crookwell, Jupiter, Byalla wind farms, to name a few. Furthermore, across the electorate, we have a waste-to-energy incinerator proposed to burn Sydney's rubbish in our villages that will directly impact not only our communities, but the viability of the agricultural land surrounding it. And not only that, Mr Speaker, to connect all the renewable energy projects that are operating is the Transgrid Hume project, one of the New South Wales' largest energy infrastructure ventures, which in its first stage affects 20 landowners in my electorate alone, not to mention the many in its corridor. Mr Speaker, I'm sure that many people will assume that this is a good news story, but reality is the national push for renewable energy is coming at a cost to my regional electorate, a cost to agriculture production, an impact to productive prime agricultural land that supplies our nation's tables, a cost of emotional distress for the residents impacted by these foreign-owned businesses that uncertainty in the planning progress with no clear guidelines. Mr Speaker, as Australia's first inland city, Goulburn has some of the most magnificent accounts of pastoral and pioneering history equal to anywhere in Australia. Today, the region is home to some of the leading agricultural experts, researchers and practitioners in their literal fields. Whether it is producing the finest wool and best beef or the array of crops grown to feed us, agriculture is what the electorate of Goulburn is known for. Mr Speaker, it was on the 1st of April this year that I found out yet another renewable energy project was popping up on our prime agricultural land. An enormous solar farm was being proposed in Gundary. Mr Speaker, Goulburn is not known for its sunshine and brightness or cloudless days. In fact, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology lists our annual sunshine duration, daily solar exposure, UV exposure, all well below the national average. I have been advised the BOM listed only 60% of Goulburn's days as sun, which makes a proposed solar farm on the Gundary Plains, as compared to other sites, somewhat perplexing. Mr Speaker, the Goulburn-Gundary area is not part of the state's government regional energy zones. There are renewable energy zones planned and operational in New South Wales. Goulburn and Gundary are not included in this plan, zones that welcome these projects. The location proposed is prime agricultural land, Class 3 and rated as RU1, land which is currently growing quality cattle, merino sheep and lambs. The adjoining farmers run fat lambs, cattle and goats for the food market, stud sheep and merino sheep. This land grows food crops such as oats, canola and lucerne. Mr Speaker, this is precious fertile land which is contributing to Australia's and the world's food security. However, now the land faces a proposal for 1,500 acres to be covered in a 400 megawatt solar facility that has over 1.2 million panels, batteries, DC-AC converters and a 300 kV substation, with an operational life of 35 years and an expected lifetime of a dismal 2 to 4 jobs after the initial build. Mr Speaker, recently I met with some of the adjoining landowners, those who have put in many years of hard work and sacrifice to their property and community. These residents are facing a situation poised to severely disrupt their entire livelihood and personal health. Their homes presently overlook that magnificent landscape of green valleys and foothills. However, this proposal is to go ahead. There will be 180 degrees of glinting, glaring glass from solar farm impacting their panorama. Furthermore, Mr Speaker, the Gundary Plains are a part of the Sydney drinking water catchment, and residents are keenly aware of the regular flooding and potential impact to the water catchment should this project proceed. More than 74 working farms and residents will be directly affected visually and physically if the foreign-owned Gundary solar farm progresses. I'd like to make my position clear, Mr Speaker. The Goulburn electorate is saturated with renewable energy projects. While I understand the importance of these projects as an alternative power source, it should not be at the expense of community agriculture and the local environment. It's time to share the burden. Perhaps wind farms on Sydney Heads, solar panels in Centennial Park. The possibilities are endless. Please understand I'm committed to our zero emissions target by 2050, but not at the expense of prime agriculture lands. I'm looking forward to the report by the Commissioner for Agriculture to address this and guidelines being produced to support our agriculture industry. In the meantime, no to Gundary Solar Farm and no to waste energy at Tarrago.
Well, I thank the member for Goulburn and I call the member for Auburn.